Guys, this is absolutely crazy. It's Iron Man. Batman is going to be fighting Iron Man. I cannot believe that this is what we're getting. Hey, what's going on, you guys? My name is the Raptor, and welcome back to another one of my Death Battle prediction videos. So, on July 15th at RTX, it was revealed who Batman's opponent is going to be in the upcoming Death Battle. For me, that was very recent, but I'm not sure exactly when I'm going to post this video. Maybe when that information is more accessible to the public. I'm not exactly sure yet. But yes, it was revealed that Batman's opponent is going to be Iron Man, which pretty much all of us already knew, right? Now, in terms of Batman coming back for a third time, you know, his fourth time on the show, it is kind of annoying. It's annoying to see him back again, so in that sense, I'm not really happy. But at the same time, I'm also really intrigued because we're getting a lot of new material for Batman. Of course, they've been focusing on the Hellbat so far, but I know that we're going to get a lot of other stuff too, so that's really cool, you know? We're not looking at a new character, but it's like we're looking at completely new stats. Everything is different except for the character himself, you know, Bruce Wayne, so that's really cool. And I do think this is the best way to do a Batman versus Iron Man fight, you know, to look at all the higher end suits that they have, all that stuff. I think that's really cool because, you know, when left to their standard devices, you know, I think it is pretty clear that Iron Man is just too much for Batman more times than not. But yeah, in terms of, you know, their higher end stuff, that could be a really cool fight, like how they did Flash versus Sonic, but Wally West versus Archie Sonic instead of Flash versus normal Sonic. I think this is the best way to do a Batman versus Iron Man fight, which is a major legacy fight. So on the one hand, yeah, it's annoying to see Batman come back again, but at the same time, I am really intrigued and I think this could be really cool. With all that being said though, it's still a little tough for me to make this prediction because as far as I'm aware right now, and this could change very quickly, I know that, but as far as I'm aware right now, we don't know the exact conditions for this fight. Are both Batman and Iron Man going to be getting all the suits that they've ever worn, or is it going to be stuff that's more current or stuff they currently have access to? I'm not sure. We know that Batman is getting the Hellbat suit. We've known that for a while. And Death Battle actually revealed a working thumbnail, or maybe it's the official thumbnail, I don't know, but they revealed a thumbnail for this fight at the RTX panel, and the Hellbat suit was on one side, and on the other side, it was Arno Stark's Godbuster suit. Now, this is a little weird to me because as far as I'm concerned, Tony has never actually piloted Arno Stark's version of the Godbuster suit. Tony does have his own Godbuster suit, or at least he had it, and that I think would be fair game if they're including like all the suits that they've ever used. But Arno Stark's Godbuster suit is a little weird to put in the thumbnail if you ask me. Maybe it could imply they're using Tony's Godbuster suit, I don't know. But in general, it is really important to know which suits the characters are going to be using, because Death Battle isn't just going to say that one character will kill the other character before they get to their strongest suits. That's just not how Death Battle works. They allow the characters to get to their strongest before anyone dies, you know, to make it the most fair. So really, the debate here is between the strongest suit they're using for Batman and the strongest suit they're using for Iron Man. So it's important to know what those suits are. And yes, the other suits they include will be incorporated in the animation and the analyses to some degree, I would assume. But still, when it comes to the debate factor or the debate aspect of the fight, those other suits really aren't that important. It's really just based on the strongest suits that each character gets. And to make matters even more complicated, Death Battle said that they'll be including things for the characters that aren't exactly suits. So what the hell does that mean, you know? Is Batman going to be getting a White Lantern ring? Is Iron Man going to be getting the Infinity Stones? Both of which the characters have used respectively in the comics before in prominent stories. So if it's true that they are using basically every single suit that these guys have, which seems like they might be, you know, we don't know for sure, but it seems like they might be, then yeah, if they're looking at things that aren't suits, they might be including things like those as well, you know? So I think it's very possible. But at the same time, I don't want to think about those at all for this prediction because I feel like it's just a recipe for disaster. There's way too many unknown variables. Trying to put my faith into something like that just seems like it's not going to turn out well for me. And yeah, it's just going to make my head hurt way too much. I'm mainly going to be focusing on the suits for these characters, and considering the kinds of characters that these guys are, you know, Batman and Iron Man, I think Death Battle is mostly going to be doing the same ultimately, at least for the most part. So because there's still not a lot about this fight that we know in terms of specifics, I'm going to go over a lot of the big, strongest suits that are on both sides. Obviously, I'm not going to be able to cover everything because that would just take way too long, but I'm going to go over a lot of the big notable ones and talk about how much I think they could affect the fight or how much I think that they'll be talked about in the episode, etc., etc. So let's start with Batman. So of course, Batman has worn a lot of different powerful suits over the years, and many of them are specifically designed for a specific purpose. Like for example, you have the Insider suit, which essentially replicates a bunch of the Justice League's powers, though it still isn't as strong as the entire Justice League combined, of course. You also have the Justice Buster armor, which has measures specifically designed for taking out the Justice League. However, it was only used against a weakened version of the Justice League, and it was eventually torn apart by a weakened Superman, but still, it was a Superman that wasn't holding back because he was evil at the time, so, that's still extremely impressive. And of course, there was the Superman fighting suit from The Dark Knight Returns. Now, that is a non-canon story, so I'm not sure if Death Battle is going to bring it up. They could surprise me and actually include it, but regardless, Batman still has stronger suits, and at least one of them is definitely going to be used in this episode, in the Death Battle episode, so I don't think that's too important in regards to this prediction. Now let's move on to the big stuff. The one suit that everybody knows is going to be featured in this episode is the Hellbat suit. This suit was forged in the sun by the Justice League and contains a fraction of the Justice League's power. Technically, we haven't seen too much from this suit in the comics, and it's not even always piloted by Batman, but we know that it can expel energy attacks anywhere from a fraction of its energy to its whole energy supply all at once, which is really cool. And at least the first time that Bruce was wearing the Hellbat suit, he also carried a mother box on him. And mother boxes can do crazy things like create force fields and boom tubes, rearrange molecular structures, transfer energy, and a bunch more abilities I don't have time to go over. But I don't know if Batman would still have a mother box paired with the Hellbat suit. I'm not sure. Maybe he does, maybe he doesn't. Maybe Death Battle will include it anyway. I don't know. But even then, it still has some simpler abilities of its own, like giant wings for flight and invisibility. The main thing that the Hellbat is known for being able to do is stand up to a Darkseid avatar or a Darkseid emanation for a limited period of time, and then actually knock it to the ground after letting out all of its remaining power. And Lois Lane actually once piloted the Hellbat suit to fend off Eradicator, who apparently at the time was powered by like millions of Kryptonian souls or something like that, unless I'm getting something wrong. Either way, Eradicator by himself is pretty strong, so either way you look at it, wow, that's pretty damn impressive, especially for Lois Lane. The problem though is that this suit actually siphons the user's metabolism the longer that it uses it. It siphons more and more metabolism, so Batman cannot use the suit for ridiculously long periods of time, at least not to the suit's fullest potential, because it will eventually kill him. However, the Hellbat suit is actually not Batman's most powerful suit. His most powerful came much more recently, and it's known as the Final Batsuit. Now, I'm not sure whether or not Death Battle is actually going to include this suit in the fight, because they've really been pushing the Hellbat suit in the advertising, which may imply that it's the most powerful suit they're giving Batman, or it might not, I'm not sure. But if they are using the Final Batsuit, oh man, are we in for something. Just to give a quick origin, the Final Batsuit was originally a chair known as the Sunbox, which was composed of element X or 10th metal, which rests in the 6th dimension, is somehow completely made of imagination, and it has the ability to quote-unquote see into people's hearts. Now that might not sound that impressive, but just keep following along. So essentially, a mech suit was built around the Sunbox, and it's also composed of element X or 10th metal, and this is what Batman pilots. And while piloting it, he's capable of soloing the entire Justice League with essentially no effort. Well, technically Superman wasn't there at the time, but still, we're talking Flash, Martian Manhunter, Green Lantern, all of the major heavy hitters of the Justice League, and Batman is able to take them all out on his own with virtually no effort put into it. And also, with the ability to see into other people's hearts, he's capable of rewriting a person's mind, their mindset essentially, and their own being cell by cell with just a thought. We know that someone using the Sunbox before was able to do this to an alternate version Justice League. So, holy crap. Keep in mind also that this Final Batsuit was supposedly known as the quote-unquote greatest creation, even from the perspective of the World Forger. The World Forger is a 6th-dimensional being, meaning he exists beyond imagination alongside his brothers the Monitor and the Anti-Monitor, and of course there's their mother Perpetua, and he is responsible for all of the multiverse-shattering crises that happen in DC, including Final Crisis, Crisis on Infinite Earths, etc., etc. And he's able to do this through the use of Element X, which is what the Final Batsuit is made of and also uses for its power. And also the Sunbox is kind of like a super mother box, so all the stuff that a mother box could do, it's theoretical that, the Sunbox should also be able to do those things as well. So yeah, there you go. But after going over all of that, let's move on to Iron Man. So Iron Man, of course, has a ridiculous amount of suits that serve specific functions as well. A lot of them are for fighting specific people, and that's why he has a lot of Buster suits. Of course, not all of them are Buster suits. He has everything from the Bleeding Edge armor to the Uru armor to the Endo-Sym armor, like Superior Iron Man, to, the Extremis armor, and way more than I have enough time to list, to be honest. But yeah, a lot of those suits are incredibly strong, don't get me wrong, but they're still not quite as strong as the strongest of the strong suits that Tony has. So I wanted to bring them up, but I'm not going to be going over them too much. Just to serve as an introduction to the Buster suits, of course there's the Hulk Buster suit and the Thor Buster suit. Everybody knows those ones, but he also has other Buster suits like the Fin Fang Foom Buster and the Phoenix Buster. There was also the Galactus Buster, but I believe that that belongs to a different timeline. Someone correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure about that. But yeah, it's probably unlikely that these suits could keep up with the characters that they're trying to bust when they're at their maximum potential, because God knows that the Hulkbuster suit and the Thorbuster suit aren't able to do that. But even still, something like the Phoenix Buster suit is incredibly powerful. For those that don't know, the Phoenix Force, like at its lower end or even middle end like power levels, it's still able to affect numerous universes with ease and transcend pretty much all the laws of physics. And if we want to look at the Phoenix Force at its maximum, it's been able to match infinite universe-ending power before multiple times. So to say that it's full multiversal in its power at its maximum is like the minimum that you could say about it. There's evidence it might be able to go even further than that. Now, technically the Phoenix Buster suit or the Phoenix Buster armor did not destroy the Phoenix. All it did was split it up into 5 different pieces. But that's still really impressive. No other hero was ever able to do that before, and it's not like the Phoenix Force wanted that to happen. That was still something that the Phoenix Buster made it do. So that's still undeniably impressive. But after all that, we're now getting to the suit that a lot of people have been waiting for, the Godkiller armor. Not to be confused with the Godbuster armor, that's coming later. But the Godkiller armor, technically there are 2 different versions, and one of them Tony wasn't even able to pilot. This was the original one, and he wasn't able to pilot it. Only Arno was able to because of some reason. Comics are very weird. Regardless though, Tony actually made a second one, so it's the Godkiller Mark II, which he can pilot, and yeah, it's actually capable of fighting against Dark Celestials for a good amount of time, for a limited amount of time at least, you know? Granted, it's not able to fight against them forever, and it is honestly sorely lacking in versatility, but even still, Celestials on their own are incredibly strong. Even standard Celestials are said to have power which exceeds that of the Cosmic Cube's power, which is able to affect infinite universes just like the Phoenix Force. Celestials are said to be even higher than that, and Dark Celestials are basically just regular Celestials with extra sauce. Eventually though, the Godkiller armor was taken down by one of the Dark Celestials, which caused Tony to blow it up, which did harm a few Celestials all at once, so that was impressive. But yeah, it eventually did not last. It eventually was taken down. But still, to be able to fight against Celestials for any length of time is incredibly ridiculous. And finally, we have the Godbuster armor, which has a bit of a weird origin to it. Basically, it was created in a virtual world that was created by Tony Stark, known as Escape, and then it was brought into the real world. Arno Stark said that it was Tony Stark's greatest creation and that it was the quote-unquote ultimate weapon, and Ironheart scanned it and said that she hadn't scanned anything more powerful before, which could include things similar to the Godkiller or it might not. It's a little ambiguous there, but still, it would definitely be at least in the same power range to be considered as high as it is, you know? It'd still be very, very powerful. Now, at first, I wasn't sure whether or not Death Battle was going to include this one because it was basically just brought into the real world and then put back into the virtual world and then destroyed, you know? So I wasn't sure whether or not they were going to include it, but if a version of the Godbuster suit is in the thumbnail, or at least the working thumbnail, as I said before, then maybe they will include it. And plus, I just wanted to bring it up because it is kind of cool. I didn't want to leave it out. So now I've gone over basically everything I wanted to for these characters, and yeah, predicting this fight is going to be really, really tough. Of course, people have their own opinions regarding what should be more powerful than something else from a different universe, or what should be stronger, what should be weaker, like the Celestials, Darkseid avatars, and sixth-dimensional beings from DC, etc., etc. When comparing all those things, people have their own opinions, and sometimes they can be polar opposite opinions. And it makes sense, when you start getting to those higher-end levels from these universes, the scaling and the comparisons can be kind of ambiguous. It's kind of hard to decipher, you know? And like I said before, I'm not really going to be focusing on any of the extra material that Batman or Iron Man might get in this episode, like the White Lantern ring or the Infinity Stones or anything like that, because again, I feel like there's just too many unreliable factors, too many, you know, weird things that could happen or might not happen, so I'm just pushing all that to the side and I'm mainly just focusing on the suits for this prediction, just to remind you guys. And again, this whole fight can be determined by what Death Battle decides to give Batman and Iron Man in regards to suits or other stuff, etc., etc., and that's hard to judge. What I will say right now, though, is that I don't think they're going to be focusing too much on what the characters still have currently or what's more current or anything like that, just because I kind of see this episode as like a showcase of their armors, or at least most of their armors, and I think it would be weird if they included something like the Hellbat but didn't include something like the Godkiller or the Godbuster or anything like that. So I'm moving forward in this prediction under the assumption that it's going to include basically all their armors. You know, if that's not the case, then, you know, this prediction is basically rendered useless, but whatever, that's what I'm going with. So I know that a good amount of people are going to disagree with me, and if you do, that's perfectly fine. We all have our own opinions. opinions, but the way that I see this fight, or the way that I interpret this fight, is if the best suit that Batman gets in this fight is the Hellbat suit, then I think that Iron Man has a good chance of winning if he gets stuff like the Godkiller and the Godbuster, etc., etc. The Hellbat suit is incredibly impressive, don't get me wrong. What it's been able to do, like take on Darkseid and the Eradicator, yeah, those aren't easy things to do at all. But I feel like the Godkiller taking on Celestials, or Dark Celestials for as long as it did, just seems to be more powerful than what we've seen the Hellbat do so far. And I would imagine that it's more powerful than the amount of power the Justice League put into the Hellbat suit. Again, the Celestials in general have power over infinite universes, and majorly upscale from cosmic cubes, which also have power over infinite universes. So while the Hellbat is incredibly impressive, there's no doubt about that, I just feel like taking on Celestials is a little out of the Hellbat's range. I just feel like it'd be a little too much for it. The Godbuster suit is potentially even stronger than the Godkiller suit. Again, that's a little ambiguous, but it's still possible. So I think that the Godbuster suit also has a chance of taking down the Hellbat. With all of that being said though, if they do decide to give the final Batsuit to Batman in this fight, then it becomes a much more complicated fight, at least in my opinion. Keep in mind also that the Godkiller armor that Iron Man uses is not the same as the original Godkiller. That suit was created a very long time ago, it posed a threat to like a ton of Celestials all at once. Iron Man can't actually pilot that one. The one that he can pilot is the one that he created himself, it's the Godkiller Mark II, and that one is much less powerful than the original, as we know that it was eventually majorly damaged by a Dark Celestial, and it wasn't really able to come back from that. Again though, doing what it did, it's still incredibly powerful, and the Godbuster armor could be even more powerful than that, potentially. But the final Batsuit is also incredibly powerful, and it definitely surpasses the Hellbat. Again, this is the suit that is powered by the Sunbox, and is created out of Element X, or 10th metal. This is the element that the World Forger uses in order to be able to recreate multiverses, or to be able to create new multiverses. And again, it's the suit that's able to rewrite the mind, or rewrite the essence of anyone it chooses, cell by cell, with just a thought. The final Batsuit basically asks the question, what would happen if Batman became a sixth dimensional god? And to be clear, it is pretty obvious that the sixth dimension is far less simple than just the dimension that's above the fifth dimension, which is the dimension that's above the fourth dimension, etc., etc. The final Batsuit exists in and is powered by things that rest far above conventional dimensional existence. The sixth dimension is beyond imagination somehow. So it is kind of hard to detect how powerful the final Batsuit is, because we've really only seen it curb stop the Justice League, again without really any effort, but still, like, that's pretty much the best thing we've seen it do while being piloted by Batman. And it's even harder to compare it to something like another really powered suit from another universe, but still, just based on its description and its properties, based on what we've seen it do, and based on what we know it can do, it's still fucking broken. So do I know what would actually win between the final Batsuit and Iron Man's strongest suits, like the Godkiller or Godbuster? No, absolutely not. I think it's pretty much up for interpretation, and based on the interpretation, you could pretty easily argue it either way. You know, some people are dead set on one opinion, and some people are dead set on the other opinion, and they are not willing to change their minds. That's just kind of the way it is nowadays, you know? And Death Battle just seems like one of those opinions, you know? It's obviously backed by a lot of research, but ultimately it is still going to be one of those opinions, based on their interpretation, which is going to be more powerful, you know? So I feel like I have to just predict what interpretation Death Battle is going to go with, because I feel like trying to tackle this fight from every single different interpretation, it just seems like too much work. I think the simpler answer is to just try to predict what Death Battle is going to say based on what they've done before. One thing that I could see Death Battle doing is trying to oversimplify the argument. Like, for example, when they did Thanos versus Darkseid, they were like, oh yeah, well, Thanos' Infinity Gauntlet and Darkseid's Omega Effect are about equal in power because they both have universal range, which already has enough problems in and of itself. But the point is, I could see them doing something similar to that. Like, I could see them saying, oh yeah, well, the final Batsuit and the Godkiller armor, you know, they both scale to characters or beings that can affect infinite universes, so it really just comes down to their other abilities that they have. And if they were to go that route, then yeah, the final Batsuit really does have a leg up there. The Godkiller armor is very powerful, but it doesn't have too many special weapons. Same with the Godbuster. I think the Godbuster is more versatile, but it's not as versatile as the final Batsuit, which has a ton of Mother Box abilities, and again, rewriting a person's essence and mind with just a thought, it has way stronger abilities. Essentially what I'm saying is that if they can't prove that the Godkiller is more powerful than the final Batsuit, and if they can't prove that the Godkiller, you know, can't resist what the final Batsuit can do, same goes with the Godbuster, but, you know, you know what I mean, then yeah, there's a good case to be made for the final Batsuit winning. If they really just say that, oh yeah, their power is about equal, it doesn't really matter, and they go with the other abilities, then it does make more sense to go with the final Batsuit. I'm not saying I would agree with that methodology, because personally I wouldn't, but I could see them doing something like that, where they resort more to the extra abilities rather than trying to find out exactly where they are on, you know, the power scale or whatever, something like that. Or I could see them doing something similar with the Godbuster specifically, saying that, oh yeah, both of the suits are too powerful for normal reality, but the final Batsuit has shown off way more impressive abilities and therefore it wins, you know? I could see them doing something like that. And just in general, I trust Death Battle more to represent a higher end DC character better than a higher end Marvel character, especially after Hulk vs. Broly. I'm not sure if Death Battle gets exactly how the higher end Marvel stuff works, so I kind of trust them to represent the higher end DC characters they could talk about in this Death Battle better than the higher end Marvel characters they could talk about in the episode. And just in general, I find it more likely that Death Battle would say that this suit above imagination that, you know, was made out of this reality-breaking metal and has all these insane abilities would win against another powerful suit that ultimately lost to reality-breaking beings than, you know, lose against it. I could see them using that as an argument. So, I don't know. That's just a way I think Death Battle could do it. So yeah, this fight is really annoying from a predictor's point of view, just because there are a lot of things that I don't know what Death Battle is going to do. Are they going to include something? Are they not going to include something? Are they going to analyze something a certain way or not? You know, it's really hard. It's really hard for me to judge what they're going to do, but I wanted to try anyway, right? So essentially, who do I think would actually win, or what do I think would actually win between the final Batsuit and the Godkiller or Godbuster? I don't know. But what do I think is going to happen? Well, if they do not include the final Batsuit, then I do think that Iron Man is probably going to win, assuming that like he gets stuff like the Godkiller and the Godbuster, or if there's something at least close to that scenario where essentially Batman gets all his suits except for the final Batsuit, and Iron Man gets pretty much all of his suits. As long as there's something close to that, then I would go with Iron Man. I think that's more reliable. But if Batman gets the final Batsuit, then I really don't know. I could see them going either way just based on the interpretation, but I think it's more likely that Death Battle would choose the final Batsuit. So that's what I'm thinking. If the final Batsuit is included, I think they're going to give it to Batman. If it's not, then ultimately I think they're going to give it to Iron Man. If Iron Man does win against the final Batsuit, I will totally understand. I know it just means they're going to interpret it in a different way than I think they're going to interpret it, but that is my prediction. That is what I think will happen. I am probably going to get it completely wrong, but hey, you know what? This was a fun video anyway, and a very long one. I'm sorry. So guys, thank you all so much for watching this video. If you did watch it the whole way through, then you are made out of Element X, because you are imaginary. But regardless, if you enjoyed this video, please give this video a like, maybe even subscribe if you really want to help this channel out. It would really help, especially after all of this in this video. But yeah, you know, let me know in the comments below who you think is going to win or what you think Death Battle is going to say. It'd be perfectly fine if you think Death Battle is going to have a completely different interpretation than what I think they're going to have, or if you have a completely different interpretation from me or anything like that. You know, it's all just opinions. As long as it's all civil, I think it's good. But yeah, that's really it for this video. I really hope you enjoyed it, and I will see all of you guys in the next video. Peace out.